Governor Jerry Brown of California has declared a state of emergency in California, specifically in Porter Ranch, which is a suburban town in Los Angeles County, after a methane leak continues to destroy the lives of people living in the area. People living in Porter Ranch have been evacuated. It is currently a no-fly zone, and the pollution in that area is so disastrous that Jerry Brown finally decided to do something about it. Now, the leak began in October. However, the companies behind it, the SoCal gas company, believes that they will be able to fix the leak in late March. So let me give you more details on that. For more than 10 weeks, a damaged well has released large amounts of planet-warming methane and emitted sulfur-like odors that have sickened residents with nosebleeds, headaches, and other symptoms, which is why they've been evacuated.
So the story that we have here from the LA Times that it said as of December 22nd, it had released the equivalent of 330, the greenhouse gas emissions from 330,000 cars. That the 330,000 cars produce in a year.
Yep.
As since December 22nd. It's already January 7th, so we're already 16 days past that. And it's not going to get fixed till the end of March. That's not 2 months from now. That's at least 2.5 months from now. And it had already been going on since late October. So it was 2 months then, plus these 16 days in between. So it's already at it was 1.6 million metric tons of CO2 on December 22nd. It's more, it could be 4 million metric tons, 5 million metric tons by then.
So as of December 22nd, it was more greenhouse gas emissions than 330,000 passenger vehicles produce in a year.
So take that December 22nd, we're at minimum doubling that, plus the days, it's 4 million metric tons.
This is a disaster, right? Like the BP oil spill was also a disaster, and it got the necessary news coverage to get the word out about the lack of regulations and what the ramifications of that will be. But this story, honestly, is really confined by local coverage, and that's it.
And you know why?
Because no one cares about what's happening to the environment?
Pictures.
Right.
Pictures.
That's a good point.
The BP thing had the great, unbelievable shot of the oil spill, plus the contamination of the water at the surface was a picture all by itself. This, you can't see it.
Well, there was a video showing an infrared, image, I guess, or images of the methane leak. So we have that for you. We've shown it to you in the past, but I want you guys to take a look at it again to kind of understand the severity of the situation. And then I'm going to tell you about some of the regulations, emergency regulations, that the governor is calling for to kind of mitigate this situation and also solve it in case something happens like this in the future. So let's take a look at that video real quickly. So there it is. There's the methane leak that's causing all of these health conditions for the residents of Porter Ranch and also causing them to evacuate their homes. Now, some people have to rent properties that cost up to $8,000 a month because renters know that they can exploit people in this situation, which is disastrous. But the Southern California Gas Company is agreeing to pay for the majority of these rents. Now, the emergency regulations would require Southern California Gas Company and other operators of gas storage facilities to conduct daily inspections of wellheads using infrared leak detection technology, verify the mechanical integrity of wells. I mean, this is all stuff they should have been doing in the first place.
Right.
Measure gas flow and pressure and regularly test safety valves, among other steps. Each facility would also have to draft a risk management plan that would examine the corrosion potential of pipes and other safety threats. I mean, great. I mean, I'm glad that the governor's doing something about this, but time and time again, when these disasters happen, you have to ask yourself, why weren't these regulations put in place in the beginning to ensure that this, A, doesn't happen, and B, if it does happen, there's a quick solution to it. Right now, obviously, there's no quick solution to it because this started happening in October, and they don't plan on, fixing it until late March.
I mean, look, this is why we regulate. This is because if left to their own devices, they won't use infrared technology, which I'm sure costs a fair amount of money.
Right.
And they won't test the safety valves as often as they should because they don't want to pay the guys to do it. They'll do some because, of course, it's a major loss for them if it breaks, so they have some interest in maintaining it. But the bottom line always wins. When you might make a little more money if you don't do something, it always wins. We would never accept this type of lack of regulation on airplanes.
Right.
We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't think, they'll do it themselves. They'll do no, because at some point, and it happens all the time in other parts of the country, and it's happened sometimes other parts of the world, and it's happened sometimes here in America, where you're like, yeah, we should, but well, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And most of the time it is fine, and then it isn't, and a plane breaks up in the air and everybody dies. So, and so now we've had to, the governor's had to come in late, right? And not with the kind of sweeping changes, the kind of state of emergency that would allow him to suspend laws that can cut red tape to make sure all these things happened quickly, and to deliver the emergency equipment and the the things that would rectify the residents who've been forced out.
Right.
So he hasn't quite gone that far, but it is a good start.
He hasn't gone that far yet. I mean, you also have to keep in mind that Governor Jerry Brown isn't immune to the same type of corruption that other politicians are getting to enjoy, and that corruption is in the form of legalized bribery. We talked about that when we originally covered the story. You know, one of his biggest campaign donors involves oil and gas companies. So that's part of the issue, I think. That's part of the reason why the regulations weren't put forth to begin with. Now, this will be a little different from the BP situation, because Governor Jerry Brown is going out of his way to ensure that all of the solutions are paid for by Southern California Gas Company. They're not going to be paid for by taxpayers. So that's a good thing. Unlike with most emergency proclamations, however, he did not suspend state laws, cut red tape, or commit more resources or public funds to address the leak. But here's the thing, I don't want public funds to address the leak. I want private funds to address the leak. The leak is Southern California Gas Company's problem. They need to deal with it. They need to pay for it, and I hope that's what happens.
Right, but I mean, what you'd like to do is that in ordering state agencies to utilize all necessary state personnel, equipment, and facilities to ensure a continuous and thorough response, you want to make sure that that happens, and that might cost money. That's why we're supposed to have a fund to do that. We're supposed to have, that's why we fund the, whatever, what's the FEMA, right? Federally, and why California has its own version of that. So there's a well of money that can happen here and be used. And then you go after the company to pay the money back. So I would like to have seen him go further and include the suspending of state laws, cutting red tape, and the commitment of more resources and public funds to address the leak, and then you get the money back from SoCal Gas.
Yeah.
And it has to be a little fight, but then that's what you're supposed to do. But most environmentalists, or some environmentalists at least, are recognizing this as a start.
Yeah, they're recognizing it as a start. They would have liked the governor to go further, but at least he's finally addressed it, and he's called a state of emergency, because before it seemed as though the governor was kind of quiet on this situation. And remember, it happened in October.
Yeah, it's January. I mean, it's January. It's massively leaking. I mean, you see the infrared thing in the shot behind me, and we showed that video. I mean, again, that video is not quite as compelling because we don't know what that is. It looks like Mars, right?
Yeah,
good
point.
But that's a lot of terrible thing coming out of there. And so that this happened in October and it's January, it just seemed, people have nosebleeds and headaches. It's horrendous. And I don't understand why you wouldn't, I don't even understand, given the fact that you get a fair amount of money, as you do from a number of industries, you get a lot of money from oil and gas. I mean, I wouldn't care. I guarantee, first of all, he's done running. So I don't understand why you wouldn't go, yeah, I know you gave me a lot of money, but you have a leak.
Yes.
And you've got to fix it now. I don't care what we've done. Fix it now.